Council Member Brad Lander. All right. And your Mayor, Bill de Blasio. So I'd like to invite up Jazara Crawford, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. Jazara. I'm sorry,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Jazara. Now I'd like to acknowledge some of our special guests here this evening. Our host, MS51, Lenora Dilio Berner, Principal, and our co-sponsors, Community Board 6, Community Board 12, the Park Slope Civic Council, Park Slope Neighbors, the Fifth Avenue Committee, and the Cobble Hill Association. Also, we'd also like to thank the Old Stone House, the Fifth Avenue Bid, and the Gowanus CDC. Now I'd like to invite up Assemblymember Joanne Simon to give some brief greetings.
Here we are again. I was with the mayor earlier today. So I just want to say I am thrilled to see so many people here in such a packed house. I want to thank the mayor for doing this town hall. I know that there's a lot of work for you. It's also a lot of work for your staff. So I want to thank all of the commissioners and the staff and the NYPD for being here. Thank you so much. And of course, MS51 and everybody else who co-sponsored this. I want to just say that I know that this is going to be an interesting night. I know you're going to get a lot of questions. The issues in this neighborhood are not so different from many others. The high cost of housing, Vision Zero, getting our kids safely to school. All of those issues are critical issues. The environment in CB6, this is a very big issue as well, as you know. So I'm looking forward to hearing the questions. I'm looking forward to hearing your excellent answers. So thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you. I do this routine with him all the time. It's very fun.
Wherever we go.
Thank you, Assemblymember Simon. Next up, Assemblymember Robert Carroll.
Good evening, Park Slope. It is so exciting to be here. I am so happy to see so many people I know for this town hall to come out. I'm so happy to hear from our mayor, all of his wonderful answers. I will say one thing to the mayor, though. I have been talking to a bunch of high school and college students who are in the crowd right now, and I promise you they have wonderful questions, so I hope they all get to answer their questions. So I am ready, and I will not drone on.
Well done.
Thank you, Assemblymember Carroll. Now your council member, Brad Lander.
Thank you, Marco. What a great crowd. It is really wonderful to see so many out here tonight. Obviously, we've faced a lot of challenges the last year, but one thing we have seen is just an extraordinary renewed energy in local government. I really appreciate everybody who is out here, so thank you all for coming. Thank you, Jazara, for the pledge and for kicking us off, to Lenore for hosting us, and to all the many, many staff who have put work into the event. On a happy note, we have to note that it is Bobby Carroll's birthday today, so let's say a big happy birthday. And I'll note he shares that with Hillary Clinton. It's her birthday today as well. So, and then I want to start on a sad note and ask you to join me in remembering someone that we lost this week. Barbara Bethel, who a lot of you know is just a remarkable tenant leader on President Street, who wound up in a building that had been abandoned, decrepit, fought hard to change that. It was then going to be turned over to a private developer. She organized with her neighbors and with 3 other buildings and fought to make sure that building was renovated and then turned over to the Fifth Avenue Committee and the tenants as permanently affordable housing for low-income families, something we need a lot more of. So, we mourn with her family, and I'll just ask if you'd join me in a moment of silence for her. Thank you. Barbara organized to preserve something deeply important to this neighborhood and to strengthen our ability to work together for what matters. And that spirit of organizing is very powerful in this community. You could feel it recently in our successful fight to save the Fifth Avenue Key Food when it was threatened. And as a result, we're going to get mixed income housing and a big community supermarket. You could feel that spirit of organizing in our fight to preserve the Park Slope Pavilion, soon to be the Nighthawk Prospect Park, where our kids and many others have seen an awful lot of movies and will still be able to. You can see that spirit of organizing in the work going on right now in Kensington to preserve the Kensington Stables, something we're working on together and are going to keep fighting hard for. You can see that spirit of organizing together for what matters in the friends groups for our parks and our libraries. We're so lucky to have so many of that team. We've got folks here from the Friends at Carroll Park, across the street at Old Stone House in Washington Park, and of course in Prospect Park, where this week a victory was won that people have been organizing for since 1991. So let's hear it for a permanently car-free Prospect Park and say a big thank you to our mayor for being part of that long campaign and bringing it to fruition this week. And of course, you can feel Barbara's spirit in participatory budgeting, something we piloted here in this neighborhood. And it's just around the corner at the Park Slope Library that you can see one of the best examples of it so far, that children's reading garden that was a patch of grass almost no one even saw, that we've turned together into just one of the most vibrant spaces in the community. I could go on and on. There's so many PTAs and civic groups and friends groups and the food co-op. The list is long and really quite extraordinary in all corners of the 39th District, from Borough Park to Cobble Hill. But Barbara wasn't only about organizing to preserve things that matter in our own neighborhood. She was also guided, and so much of our organizing is also guided by a real deep spirit of the common good, that we've got to do better to make sure the benefits that we see and fight for are more broadly shared, confront the real realities of inequality, and organize together for justice. It just so happens that Barbara died to the day 15 years after another organizer for justice, far from here, but somebody who I think captures that spirit. Senator Paul Wellstone had this phrase, "We all do better when we all do better." And that spirit really pervades Barbara's organizing and this community's organizing. That spirit was captured in the winning participatory budgeting project from last year, a mobile shower trailer requested by the Chips Soup Kitchen that more than 7,000 people voted for, the most ever in participatory budgeting New York City, so that our homeless neighbors have some place to find some dignity. And it means a lot that this neighborhood said that's our #1 priority. And you saw that same spirit in Kensington, where Kensington neighbors opened up their hearts and welcomed the Camba's Kensington Family Shelter, when not every neighborhood is welcoming a shelter, welcomed it to the neighborhood and built an extraordinary volunteering and community resource in partnership that we actually saw with a number of the commissioners, with Steve Banks, our neighbor, and some others earlier this week. You saw that spirit of Barbara Bethel and Paul Wellstone together 5 years ago this week when Hurricane Sandy hit, and when people in this neighborhood rushed up to the Armory to shelter 500 frail elderly, and to John Jay High School, and to the Veterans Shelter in Carroll Gardens, and to Red Hook, and to the Rockaways, and far beyond. building just, how many people volunteered that week in one of those places or another? We're actually going to have a reunion at the Armory a week from Saturday for folks that volunteered in the neighborhood. And I know a lot of people are going to be out this Saturday for the 5th anniversary march, making sure we do even more to confront the realities of climate change and make sure we don't have... That spirit of organizing is so present in our schools, and I'm so glad we're doing this here at MS 51, where a lot of student organizing is taking place that we'll hear about, and where the efforts throughout the district to make sure schools have bathrooms that aren't decrepit and crossing guards and air conditioning, all of that citywide. And in this district, we see people organizing to look honestly at the realities of school segregation and say, we're going to do something about it. And I'm proud to live in a district that has pioneered some of those integrated schools, from the Brooklyn New School to Park Slope Collegiate and many others, and is pushing to make sure that our middle schools and all our schools are more diverse and more integrated. And finally, you can see the spirit of Barbara Bethel and Paul Wellstone in the extraordinary work that this community has done in recent months to stand up to the bigotry and injustice and corruption coming almost every day from the White House. Thousands and thousands of you have taken leadership to defend our neighbors and our values and our democracy through Get Organized BK and many other efforts. And I feel really proud to have done a lot of that work with all of you. Now, that spirit of organizing, the Barbara Bethel and Paul Wellstone spirit, I think really explains why the neighborhood has been such a good fit with Bill de Blasio. As a lot of people in this room know, he's no stranger here. Bill and Shirlane and Kiara and Dante have been part of our community for a very long time. As parents at the Brooklyn Children's School, one of those schools working for inclusion over a lot of years, as parents right here in this gym at MS 51, the mayor served, as a lot of people know, on the community school board for District 15 and put a lot of time in for schools. Of course, as our city council member, exercising at the Prospect Park YMCA. We're lucky to have him has been a part of this community. And I think it's why people have been so eager to work together on the initiatives of this term, from universal pre-K to fighting for affordable housing to the work of Thrive NYC. Barbara Bethel and Paul Wellstone are smiling down on this town hall tonight. Amen. Now, that said, Barbara Bethel and Paul Wellstone were not softies or pushovers. They would not be even close to satisfied by the progress we've achieved so far, and they were tough cookies. So they would have asked the mayor a good, tough question, but they would have asked him one tough question and a question, and in a concise amount of time so lots of your other neighbors could also ask a question. After the mayor speaks, then we're going to start that, and I would just ask you to be mindful. We've got a lot of folks in the room. We've got a lot of great questions. We want to respect their spirit, both of organizing and of incisive questioning and pushing. So with that, and without further ado, in that spirit, please welcome our mayor and our neighbor, Bill de Blasio.
Thank you, everyone. First of all, most importantly, I want to thank everyone for being here. I totally love the example that Brad laid out to talk about this neighborhood and its spirit and this district. And I got to experience it for a lot of years and felt uplifted by it. And I just want to thank everyone for being, so deeply engaged in the community in so many ways, and in the city, and in our country. A couple things I want to say up front before we open it up, but first, please indulge me for just a second that I'm having this wave after wave of nostalgia being in this particular gymnasium, because I used to be in the bleachers over here when Kiara and Dante would play basketball as part of the 7/8 Precinct Youth Program, and I was not like the perfect progressive parent. Sometimes I got a little too engaged in the game and was told by my children I was getting too engaged in the game. I was not forcibly removed, I want to say. I considered that a great victory. I got a lot of rolled eyebrows from rolled eyes and arched eyebrows, I should say, from Chiara in particular. But I will say I vividly remember, and I'm trying to remember which basket it was. It may have been that one there. But the very end of Chiara de Blasio's 7-8 precinct basketball career, she got injured. I don't know how old she was. I think she was like 10 or something. She got injured on a play, and she came over. Her finger was hurt, and we said, "Oh, it's okay. Just sit down. The game will go on. It's okay." And she says, "No, I want to go back in." And she got injured when she was fouled on the play, so she got 2 free throws, and she missed the first, but she got the last one. And it turned out she had sprained her index finger on her shooting hand, but she still got the last free throw of her basketball career. So that is all coming back to me here. That kind of combines perseverance and hope and youth and all sorts of wonderful themes. But anyway, this place, anyone who has had anything to do with MS-51, it's a magical place in so many ways. And to everyone from the MS-51 community and Lenore, and just thank you, everyone, because it's just so good to be home. I really, really appreciate it. Quick thank yous, Joanne Simon and to Bobby Carroll. They have been extraordinary allies in Albany. I always say going to Albany to fight for fairness for New York City is not an easy task. And they have both done it really powerfully and been great progressive voices in Albany and obviously in the community. Let's thank both of them for all they do. Two of our district leaders are here. Let's thank Jake Gold and Lori Nipel for their good work. Before I talk about Brad and everything he's doing, I just want to come on over here for a moment and indicate members of my administration who are here. Now, this is a room full of people I think have been to many a public meeting. But I want to remind you, with a mayoral town hall meeting, you get the bonus round. This meeting will go till 10 p.m. For those who want to be here till 10 p.m., I'll be taking questions up till then. After that, though, all of these folks will still be here. You have the heads of a lot of the most important agencies in the city government. You obviously have the leadership of the NYPD, and they're having an amazing banner year again. Let's give them a round of applause to thank them. So all these good folks, for any question you don't get to ask or anything to be to follow up on, they're here. And I know the people of this council district well. You are good and humane people, so you may say, well, it's 10 o'clock at night. They've worked long days. They're dedicated public servants. It would be wrong to go up to them so late and ask them yet another question. But I want you to know, they are so devoted to their work. They're such believers in public service, they will stay here all night if you want them to. So do not be shy. I have to say about Brad, he has been absolutely outstanding. Oh, wait, I've been handed a note. No, it's not. We've not declared war on another country. It's okay. Our Congresswoman. Where are you, our Congresswoman? There she is. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Thank you. We were colleagues for many years in the city council. I had the honor of being her campaign chair when she ran for Congress, and she has been an incredibly consistent, progressive voice for us in Washington. Thank you, Yvette, for all you have done. Well, I was going to say very quickly about Brad. I have a special understanding of the impact Brad has had, not just on this community, but on the city. So in 1982, I was going to NYU, and I was studying urban studies. Turned out that was a good major for my career choice. And I did an internship with the Fifth Avenue Committee. And if you remember 1982, for all of you who were around in 1982, in this community was really going through a really, really tough time. And the Fifth Avenue Committee was a revitalization force, trying to get fairness, trying to get that supermarket, trying to get the affordable housing right over there. And Brad ended up a little later becoming the head of it and becoming one of the most powerful voices for community-based organizations creating affordable housing and helping neighborhoods to stay a place for everyone. And some people do that work and unfortunately often labor in obscurity, but Brad did the work and came to the attention of a lot of people because he did it really well, and he created models that other people started to use. And then I want to say he very gracefully made the transition to elective office and took that same impulse and used it to help achieve some groundbreaking things in the city council, reform of how we actually run our government to make it more democratic, things like participatory budgeting, incredible changes in how we approach housing, like mandatory inclusionary housing, requiring developers by law to have to create affordable housing, ideas he and others were working on for a long time that he actually got to help bring to bear for this entire city. So Brad, I've watched you for a long time, and you should be very, very proud of the path you've taken, and this district was smart to make him council member. Let's thank Brad for all he does. I want to talk about a few things very quick, just some updates and points, and then we'll open up very quickly. I first want to say, as New Yorkers, Brad referenced rightly the national situation. He said nearly every day we are affronted by Washington. I think it's actually all the way to every day at this point. But what is very powerful, I was with a group of mayors today at Gracie Mansion from around the country, and it was a really powerful gathering. It was mayors and the leaders of some of the most important civil rights organizations from all around the country together in common cause. And we went over an agenda of the things that cities are now banding together to take on. Cities banded together to help save the Affordable Care Act. Cities are banding together to stop this tax plan that Trump has presented in Washington, which is basically a massive giveaway to the wealthy and corporations. Cities are banding together to pass the DREAM Act in Washington. This is all things we need to do, and cities are all joining together to do it. It's very exciting. And the one that moves me the most is, remember that absolutely horrendous day, kind of a day even we thought Donald Trump wouldn't do when he pulled the United States of America out of the Paris Agreement on climate change, that President Obama had worked for so long to get us into and to achieve. And it was a depressing moment, I think probably for almost everyone in this room. But what was so powerful was, and I'm very proud to say New York was one of the leaders in this, cities around the country immediately rejected the president's action and came forward. Over 300 American cities came forward and said, we will sign on to those goals and we will achieve those goals on our own. We'll take matters into our own hands. So I think it's the do-it-yourself approach to dealing with this administration, and it's powerful. It's powerful because even though we all understand we can't move forward on a number of issues until we get change at the federal level, the fact that localities are now taking responsibility in a much deeper way and are setting much more rigorous goals for the kind of progressive changes we have to make, that has real power unto itself. So something important is happening in this moment, even though we've got a lot to fight and a lot that concerns us. Something is happening at the grassroots all over this country that's very, very powerful. Let me now talk about some of the matters of concern right here in this council district very quickly, and I'll just do rapid fire, some quick announcements and updates. I'm going to start with the topic of parks, and this is a district that is blessed with so many wonderful parks, starting with our beloved Prospect Park, where I was married under a tree. I know it sounds kind of hippie, but it's true. I was married under a tree in Prospect Park, and Shirley and I had our reception at the picnic house, and we achieved a great moment in wedding history by foregoing the traditional wedding cake and instead having 250 full-size cannoli, which are much more popular than wedding cake. I want to just share that with you. So, a little moment of history there from the picnic house. But in any event, it was experiences like getting married under the tree and our kids playing on the 3rd Street playground and the 9th Street playground that helped to show us why the park was meant for people and not for cars. And so I was involved with a lot of great people in this room and a lot of great advocates in starting the journey to a car-free Prospect Park. Let me note, and it was a long time ago, let's thank everyone who was a part of that journey from the beginning. I want to just note that it's a really good thing when you're a local official and you're trying to get something done like a car-free park and it's not really moving as far as you'd like it to. I think a simple solution is get elected mayor and then you can do it. So that happened, and thanks to everyone in the room, and we got it done. And what we said at the announcement earlier in the week, the park was built 150 years ago. It was built before the automobile. It was never meant to have cars in it because cars didn't exist. People existed. Cars didn't exist. And now cars will no longer be there. So congratulations to all. And public service announcement, that starts January 2nd. On January 2nd, there will be no cars at all on Prospect Park. Now, also on Prospect Park, we're making a couple of important investments. One, it's a really great initiative of the Parks Department called Parks Without Borders, which is to open up the parks more to the surrounding area and new entrances that are more inviting and welcoming. That's a $3 million investment in the park. But also tonight, we're announcing something brand new. And this references my own experiences, like so many people here. A lot of people in this room have spent time on the ball fields in Prospect Park, either as some of us players ourselves in noble pursuit of softball glory, or as parents with kids who played softball or baseball, or in my case, as a coach, which was a very sobering experience. I just want to let the crowd know, 7-year-olds do not listen to authority figures. So I had a very mixed career as a coach of the 7-year-olds, but this is all a preface to say the ball fields in Prospect Park are beloved and they're used constantly. 7 that still need more work as part of the wonderful renovation that's been going on, and so we're investing the final $800,000 to get them all done once and for all. All the ball fields will be updated. Just a little bit farther away in parts of Kensington and Gowanus, something that Brad has been very focused on and very much pushing us to get done. We're going to be planting 160 new street trees to help beautify the environment around there. So those are some parks announcements. Now I'm just going to flit around very quickly. I mentioned what we've been doing, and really NYPD deserves tremendous credit in terms of what's happening this year with public safety. And part of the story here is the NYPD's own efforts and the NYPD's growing partnership with communities all over the city. And the NYPD having a new and respectful relationship with the Cure Violence movement. I mean, there's so many elements to this story, but where it all comes together is that for Brooklyn, in just the last year, overall major crime is down 5% in all of Brooklyn in just 1 year's time, and that's a very good thing. And I have to say, because I have a special love for the 7-8 precinct, just so you can see that this precinct, which has done an outstanding job for so long, here's one category, but I love this number. In this precinct, this time this year, this day this year, compared to the same day a year ago, robberies are down 30% in this precinct. Let's give the 7-8 precinct a lot of praise for that. Neighborhood policing was made possible for a lot of reasons, a lot of choices that we made of a new direction for our police force. We also needed more officers to allow officers to actually be based in small parts of communities where they could get to know people and build a bond and stay at the community level longer. We needed more officers to do that. The City Council helped lead the way. Compared to 2 years ago, 2,000 more officers on patrol, and that opened the door to a very different approach and a very different philosophy. And I'll remind you, 4 years ago, the raging debate we had in this city regarding stop and frisk, and a lot of conventional wisdom, including the then mayor and the then police commissioner, we heard over and over again that if we reduced stop and frisk, you would have chaos and you would have more crime, and we would, be set backwards on the road to the 1970s again. And a lot of us, including a lot of people in this room, said no. Telling us we have to choose between safety and fairness is a false choice. We believe that we can have both. We believe that both go hand in hand. Since we created the neighborhood policing model, it is one of the reasons crime is going down. It's not just a nice thing or a good thing, or it's good to have people talking. It's one of the reasons our officers are more successful, because it's a real partnership between police and community. So neighborhood policing, I could not be more encouraged at how quickly this city is getting safer and how we're healing some of the mistakes of the past and some of the rifts of the past. I know people are going to want to talk about, obviously, another huge public safety issue is Vision Zero. I look forward to talking about that tonight. Some of the families that have led the effort for change, not only in the city, but fighting for changes in laws in Albany. Some of the families who have been the leaders come from this community, but unfortunately, they are leaders because they experienced tragedy. And they turned that tragedy into purpose, and they've been saving the lives of others in the process. Vision Zero is working. There's just no two ways about this. It's not always easy. Some people feel inconvenienced. I understand, but it's working. And listen, these are the facts, and they're amazing. In Brooklyn, since Vision Zero began in 2014, pedestrian injuries are down 10% and fatalities are down 17%. That's just in 3 years' time. In Brad's council district, pedestrian injuries down 21%, fatalities down 28%. So we don't take, look, Vision Zero is one of those endless missions. We don't accept losing anyone, but we also know something is really changing, and it's worth it, and we're going to keep deepening it. It is the right approach, and we're going to keep deepening it. But there's other things we can do that are so important. And of course, one big piece of Vision Zero is what we do to design our streets and how we approach that and how we calm our streets and how we make a virtuous sort of double play of street calming and opening up another transportation option more by providing more bike lanes. And 4th Avenue is soon to have the bike lanes and the street redesign to protect people going along 4th Avenue. Congratulations to everyone who's been a part of that. And we announced just about a week ago, one of the things that's going to help people get around better than ever, even though we're all really feeling how many people there are in our city right now and the congestion challenge and all, one of the real positive developments has been select bus service. As wherever we've put it in, it's really popular, it's been really effective. We announced last week 21 new select bus service lines, and Brad Lander's been one of the leaders in the council, pushing us to have a bigger, more bold citywide approach. We heard him, and we heard all those riders who love select bus service, and so there will be a new line on Flatbush Avenue, and there will be a new line on Church Avenue coming up. I'm almost done, but a quick pause to acknowledge and thank for his great efforts in Albany, Senator Jesse Hamilton. Thank you so much for being here. Now, I mentioned Vision Zero and mass transit and congestion, and this leads me to something I'm really happy about. We also announced the beginning of a major fight against congestion in this city. And sometimes when people think congestion, they think Midtown Manhattan, and that's obviously one of the most challenging parts of the city, but everyone who lives in Brooklyn knows there are parts of Brooklyn that have huge congestion problems that we have to address. And so I'm very excited about this because I have driven on this particular street so many times I cannot count, and I have been stuck behind the double parked trucks and cars and felt the impact of it. We are going to, for the first 6 months of next year, we're going to do an experiment. We are going to, during the rush hours, during the morning rush and the evening rush hour, on Flatbush, from Grand Army Plaza all the way to Tillery, we're going to ban deliveries by trucks during the rush hour. And here's my incredibly sophisticated theory. You know, our Transportation Commissioner, Polly Trottenberg, is here, and she's very sophisticated and very precise in her thinking. I'm a little bit more simple. My theory is this. We're trying to get around during rush hour, not just drivers of cars. People on buses, too, are trying to get around during rush hour, and we don't need delivery trucks in the way when we're trying to move, and they don't need to make their deliveries during the rush hour. They can make their deliveries the rest of the day. So that's what we're going to test. On Flatbush, we're going to test it in Queens on Roosevelt Avenue, we're going to test it in Midtown Manhattan, and if it works, I think it'll be an important change in this whole city, and we'll expand it outward. Okay, almost done, real quick. Totally different issue. Obviously, this is a community that cares deeply about the look and feel and the character of the community. A lot of people here have worked hard on making sure there was landmarking in a whole swath of brownstone Brooklyn. And I know people have worked hard. Let's give them a round of applause, all the people who've been working on it. And those efforts continue, and for a lot of people may not know this, but to give you an example of how people's voices have been heard, in the last year we've expanded the Park Slope Historic District and added to it approximately 300 more buildings. So that's an example of this is a ongoing effort to respond to the ideas and concerns of communities and to recognize that we have something very precious here. Finally, I just want to close out on some education points. Here we go. And related to youth. So pre-K, actually, a lot of why I got involved in the fight for pre-K happened right over at PS 372, the children's school, and watching what happened with Kiara and Dante and their classmates. I became convinced that it was such a powerful tool. It should be universal. It should be free. It should be full day. And it's amazing, and people were so supportive in this district. We started 4 years ago, 20,000 kids, only 20,000 kids in this city got full day pre-K for free. This morning it was 70,000 kids getting full day pre-K for free. Here's your fun trivia fact. There are more kids going to pre-K in New York City than there are kids going to all public schools in San Francisco. We're just bigger, okay? So pre-K enrollment this is just wonderful, in District 13 doubled, in District 15 tripled. That's the difference we've seen in just a few years. And some of you have been to the former Bishop Ford building, which I call the pre-K palace. If you just want to get high on 4-year-olds having a good time, just walk down the hallways in that building, and it's amazing. We are now moving to the next frontier, and this is incredibly exciting. There's no reason we can't do the same thing with 3-year-olds. And so we said, let's aim high. Let's go for full day, quality early childhood education for every 3-year-old in New York City. And that has now begun. It has begun in Brownsville and surrounding areas of central Brooklyn. It has begun in the South Bronx. By this point in 4 years, it will be universal throughout the city. Every neighborhood will have 3K as well. Final points on education. I used to hear the complaints from a lot of people, including some people in this room, and they were right, that we asked our kids to go to school sometimes in some of the hotter months like September and June and go to classrooms that weren't air conditioned and were really, really uncomfortable. We asked our teachers to be there and it was not working. And so this last spring, I asked a question in the budget process, worked with the city council. Brad also made this a major priority. And the simple question is, could we put air conditioning in every classroom in New York City? And of course, there were a lot of complications and challenges and costs, but the answer was yes, we could do it. And so, we now have announced in June that we will be putting air conditioning into every classroom. Now, what does that mean for this community? Here is the answer. By June, by this coming June, the following schools will have air conditioning in every classroom: PS 29, PS 107, PS 124, PS 130, PS 154, and yes, MS 51. It's like a game show. Lenore Berner, you've won a toaster oven. So, my very, very last point, which is really more youth-oriented than public school, but it's so wonderful. And Brad fought for this too, even though it's not officially in his council district. He cared about our young people in public housing who deserve positive places to go for recreation and tutoring and enrichment programs and cultural programs. And at the Gowanus houses, there is a physical facility. There's a community center, but it had not had youth programs in it for the last 10 years. So we announced just a few days ago that it will be reopening youth programs so the kids at Gowanus can get what they deserve as well. So those are the updates. Again, thank you, everyone. I'm just going to be kind of floaty all evening because I'm back in this special place. But I really, really look forward to this conversation. Take it away, Brad. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So we're going to start the questions in just 1 minute. We're not going to acknowledge all of the incredible city officials, but I don't think I've ever seen the commanding officers of the 4 precincts in my district all in the same room at the same time. And I will add one other thing that has just happened that the mayor didn't mention, is that the community policing program, the NCO program, is now in all 4 of those precincts. It's just come to the 78th precinct. So if you'll just say a word of welcome, we've got Inspector DiGiacomo from the 78th precinct, Captain Megan O'Malley from the 7-6, and we do not have enough women commanding officers in the NYPD, so we say a special thank you there. Captain Wall from the 6-6 precinct. And I know some of you expressed a lot of concern recently when there was an attempted kidnapping in the South Slope Windsor Terrace border, and I know how much it reassured all of us when the NYPD made an arrest essentially the next day. And I want to say a special thank you to Inspector Gonzalez from the 72nd precinct. All right.
So we've got one more acknowledgement, but I don't see. Is Assembly Member Diana Richardson here? Is she here? Where is she? She's over there. Welcome, Assembly Member. Thank you so much for being here. All right.
All right, so we're going to move to questions now. I will call on folks. I just want to remind you again, one question, concise, make it a question. We've got a lot of folks here. And I've asked one of the host organizations to kick us off, one of the co-chairs of the Park Slope Civic Council, Kedden Kilgore.
Mr. Mayor, council member, thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Brad, thank you for your kind remembrance of Barbara
So there's, even for lovely remembrances of Barbara, I have to say thank you, but let's move to the questions. Thank you, Kedden. Thank you.
Park Slope Civic Council has been around since 1896. In our 125 years of advocacy, we've supported a host of community organizations, but we also support our local businesses, the jobs that they provide, and the families that they take care of. So my question for two neighborhoods goes to jobs and local businesses. In the face of potential zoning changes in Gowanus, the upzoning, the loss of jobs, the loss of light industrial zoning.
Okay, I'm going to stop you just for a second, just because you're the first one out of the box. Just for everyone, very valid question. I'm going to hear it. I'm going to answer it. But just everyone, please try to get it in tight, because we want to get to as many people as possible. So I'm really good. If you give me the sharp question, I'll give you as clear an answer as I can.
What can your administration and the council do to protect the jobs and the businesses that are already there? And as the city prepares a huge package of subsidies and incentives and tax credits for Amazon, what can you do for our local merchants and businesses who are already here? Can the city provide a similar package to help the businesses and people who are already working?
So we're not providing a package to Amazon. Let me correct that immediately. Again, everyone, I'm just going to ask, because I've been through now, this is my 42nd town hall meeting, and I'll tell you what really works is if everyone just gives us the quick version of the concern or question, we can get to the maximum number of hands, but it's one per person out of fairness. But since I know it was the question, I love the Civic Council, the question is asked in good faith, I want to just clear the air on that second point. In fact, unlike many jurisdictions in America, we've made very clear to Amazon, and I value them. I would love to get them in New York City. I think they could do a lot that would help New York City. We're going to work hard to get them in New York City. But we've said very clearly, except for some routine subsidy programs that are available to a whole host of businesses, we are not offering a subsidy package to Amazon. I've said that publicly very clearly. That's not happening. So on the broader question, and I'm joined by the chair of the City Planning Commission, Marissa Lago, and the Commissioner for Small Business Services, Greg Bishop. Look, the punchline really is what we've tried to do for small businesses. First, compared to our predecessors, who I think increased the fines on small business very arbitrarily and for budgetary reasons, and with Greg's great leadership, we have rapidly reduced the fines on small businesses, 40% reduction so far. We're looking to cut them further. That means for a lot of small businesses, thousands of dollars less per year. We are providing legal assistance directly to small businesses that are having challenges with their landlords. We are helping small businesses to access lending more easily, and we're providing some tax relief as well. That's what we're doing so far. We're looking for other actions. There's a really interesting option in Albany, and this is where the assembly members and the senators will have to think about this, of whether there is a legal way by state law to mandate that storefronts cannot be left vacant past a certain point, which I'm very interested in. Or if not to mandate it narrowly, to tax it or have some kind of penalty if a storefront is left vacant. I am sick to my stomach. It's in this community, it's all over the city. It's one thing to say, if you're a landlord, you want to open up a storefront because you can get better rent right away from someone else. It's, to me, much more pernicious to throw out a historic store and then let the store sit there for years waiting for the highest bidder. I find that really unfair to communities, really unfair to the small business that was there before. So we want to see if we can come up with some tool to combat that in Albany. I don't think it's easy, but that's what we would like to do. I want to say one last thing, because I get this topic at almost every town hall meeting, and I'm going to preach to the converted, but I want to say it. You can do something good if you love the mom and pop stores in the neighborhood. Everyone's going to shop all sorts of different places, and that's cool. But don't forget to shop at those mom and pop stores you love and give them some money too so they can survive. Good? Okay.
Kathy? And when I call, I know some of you, I don't know some of you, I will call on people whose names I don't know, but Mike will come around to you, and then you can ask your question.
Hi, My name is Kathy Park Price. I'm a proud public school parent and a CEC 15 member. I was going to ask you this question when I happened to be exercising next to you at the Y, but I thought this was probably a better forum.
You're a kind person. Thank you.
I applaud Councilmember Bradlander for bringing our district together to identify systemic changes that the city now recognizes as understands is needed to address the segregation that exists in District 15 schools, while recognizing segregation is a citywide and even a statewide issue. CEC 15, which, as you know, advocates for the families of our school district, will participate in the community engagement process led by the WXY studio, and that process includes a working group that will meet regularly, and as well as public workshops. How will you make sure that the D15 integration plan that comes out of that year-long process will be meaningful and not artificial, that it will be in the interest of the families?
So we have two models already that have been really, really good. What CEC 3 did on the Upper West Side, where I was really so impressed by them, and we backed them fully, that they said, okay, we've got a segregation problem, and we've got a school quality problem, and the two are interacting in a really bad way. And I think they got to the heart of the matter. They said we need diversified schools while raising quality levels in any schools that had historically quality gaps. They blended all that together in their rezoning vision. We put additional resources in to help achieve that vision, including some new space. And even though there was controversy, and you know that's going to come with the territory, we managed to move that rezoning plan for that school district. I think it's going to be like one of the bellwethers for the whole effort around the city, and I applaud you to bring diversity to our schools. The other is, of course, in CEC 1 in the Lower East Side, which is a different approach for a different set of realities in that community, but also a grassroots solution that we've been working with that I think is going to very substantially address the historic problems. So far we have two great examples. I have every reason to believe we can do the same thing in District 15. There's always a lot of give and take. There's always a lot of concern. But I think that's what's happening. I think there's been a really vigorous advocacy movement, and I commend everyone who's done it because it's really put the issue on the map, and more tools for achieving the goals. We understand there are legal barriers to some of the most straightforward solutions, but we have found by addressing economic criteria, kids who qualify under Title I, or kids who are economically disadvantaged in other ways, or other factors like English language learners, we can achieve a lot of diversification that way. We're also getting rid of some of the mistakes that existed around the selection process or admissions process for the more selective schools. We're reducing a lot of the barriers that existed. We're changing the outreach efforts to make sure outreach goes to a whole catchment area for middle schools and high schools and not just to a chosen few subsets. And the one I want desperately, and I wish my colleagues in Albany could get it done, I think they're sympathetic, but they have a little Republican state Senate problem, which is the specialized schools. There's no way on God's green earth you should be able to get into a specialized school simply by taking one standardized test. I think that's an abomination on its face because it's immediately decides children's fate according to a single test. I think that's wrong. But look at what the impact has been in terms of segregation. Stuyvesant is 7% Black and Latino in a city that's 55% or so Black and Latino. Stuyvesant is only 7%. Unacceptable. We need a state law change to change it. So I think those are all parts of the solution, but I have a lot of confidence we can get to a good place in District 15.
All right, so this is a night for residents and not reporters, but we do have from an MS-51 student and tough youth journalist, Amelia Poor.
As a tough youth journalist prepares, can we also welcome our public advocate and Brooklynite, Tish James. And hold on one second. And bonus, graduate of PS 39, Tish James. All right, journalist.
My name is Amelia Poor, and I'm a Scholastic News kid reporter. Do you agree with your opponents that New Yorkers deserve to know your stance on removing controversial monuments and statues?
Thank you for your question, intrepid reporter. I was asked the same question by Rosanna Scotto on Good Day New York this morning. So, look, I made a decision that this had to be addressed across the board because I've listened to people all over the city. If you go to East Harlem, you will hear people talk about a statue there of a doctor who made major medical discoveries but did it at the cost of experimenting on slave women without giving them anesthesia. If you go to a lot of other parts of the city, you will hear people raise a concern about Confederate officers or former, or people who were slaveholders. You can hear in some parts of the city people talk about folks who were associated with Nazi or fascist movements. All of these things are real. So if it's Christopher Columbus or any other historical figure, my belief is we need to come up with one approach for the whole city to have a thoughtful way forward, and then bluntly to not dwell on anymore and move on to the issues that are already we're hearing about here that affect everyday life. So the commission I named, it's an extraordinary group of people, a very respected group of people of all backgrounds. I've asked them to take ideas and nominations from all New Yorkers, to have hearings, to come up with a vision of how we move forward that is universal. And I don't think it makes sense for me to editorialize on each and every item they will consider. So that's how I came up with the approach. Thank you.
All right, we're going to come over here to Charisse, right here in the third row.
Hi, good evening. You have previously called out the IDC for their alliance with our Republican-led state Senate. My IDC state senator, Jesse Hamilton, is here. But then you thank them for, just like you did tonight, for defending our best interests. I want to know, sorry, I had to cut this short because you wanted it short. So they block progressive legislation that could protect New Yorkers. And you have to fight every year for mayoral control of cities, New York City schools.
Yep.
So can you clarify once and for all what's your stance on the IDC? Because
100%.
You've been kind of flip-flopping.
Yeah.
You've been saying that they should join the Democrats.
I got it. I'm going to respectfully say I don't think there's any flip-flop to it at all. I want to be real straight about it. Anybody who is representing this city, I'm going to work with, so I want you to hear the first part. If I say something respectful of an elected official, whether Democrat or Republican, whether I agree with everything they've done or not, I'm still going to be respectful of them, and I'm going to work with them because these issues are happening that I have to deal with every single day. But if you say, what do we have to achieve by 2018, by the end of 2018, we need a Democratic state Senate, period. Period. And there's a couple of different ways to achieve it, and I'm just into it being achieved. So I think in 2014, I was very involved and caught a lot of hell for being very involved in the effort to achieve a Democratic state Senate. My views have not changed. It's by the way, it's not just in New York City's interest, it's in New York State's interest. The absence of a Democratic state Senate is causing the artificial redistricting at the state Senate level that's perpetuating a lot of the things that are holding back changes in rent regulation, that are holding back the ability in New York City to tax our own millionaires and billionaires, things like the millionaires tax to fix the MTA. We should have more say over that. It's our city. And everyone, I suspect, in this room cares deeply about the national picture. I guarantee you, if there was fair congressional districting in this state, Democrats would pick up 3 or 4 congressional seats in New York State. And the state Senate is responsible for that. So I want to be very straightforward. I've worked with Jesse a long time. We have a respectful relationship. I'll always be ready to work with him. But I also believe we must have, by the end of next year, a Democratic state Senate, period.
I'm going to go next to Eli Ramos in the maroon. Right behind you. Yep, right there.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Councilman. My name is Eli. I recently spoke at the public hearing for the new 1 in 4 rule for New York City cabs. And it's something that the disability community has been working for a long time to get done. We were just wondering when that would be submitted for a vote.
Okay, well, we have the chair of the Taxi and Limousine Commission here. Mira, give us the update.
Oh, right there. Thank you, and thank you for attending our hearing. Yes, we did propose rules that would allow people that use wheelchairs to take advantage of the services like Uber and Lyft that so many other New Yorkers are enjoying, but today you can't take advantage of them. The proposed rules were subject to a hearing in the end of September, and we hope to very soon be at a position where we can vote on them so they can become a reality for you and for so many other passengers who use wheelchairs. And I want to thank our council member, Brad Lander, who was an excellent supporter of our proposed rules at the hearing in September.
Madam Chair, what is very soon in your worldview? I'm going to be audience member now. What's very soon mean?
If you, I can give you the second week of November if you're okay with that.
Okay, we're going to negotiate right here, huh?
There we go.
No, but you think it'll get done just to broaden it this year?
Absolutely, that's my goal.
This year, good, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add, I was pleased to testify at that hearing, and it'll be great to get it done. All right, let's see. Let me go over here in this corner, in the red hair.
Good evening, all. My name is Madison Miller. I'm the student body president at Medgar Evers College Preparatory School, which is located in District 17, which is public, which is Diana Richardson District. My question is, Mr. Mayor, we have facilities in which just today Princeton came and they were speaking to our school students, and a 6th grade class had to sit in the college office because we don't have enough classroom space, although we have a 97% graduation rate and over 22 APs. So how can you help us get more classrooms, a gym, even an auditorium, if anything, sometime soon? Because we've been asking for over 10 years, my understanding is.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. Thank you for the question. But hold on, give her back the microphone for a minute, because I just need to get clarification. Because I want to speak about what we're doing with gym space and physical education, but I want to understand, what is the specific space that you need?
Classrooms.
Classroom space, okay. Because when I heard you say gym and all, just so everyone knows, another thing we decided in the budget is to finally fulfill the legal mandate to provide physical education to all our kids and to create gym space either in every school building in the city or as an annex or as something we lease nearby, which the president of the School Construction Authority, Lorraine Grillo, is in charge of making happen over the next few years. So we have a very big commitment to physical education. This school and their space problem, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I am very familiar with your school. Actually, you are located on the CUNY campus. And as it stands right now, there's no additional space available that CUNY would give to us to be able to expand your building. I know you have transportable classrooms as well. And we've gone there many, many times, and we've made that attempt many, many times.
Okay, did we get clarification there? Okay, hold on, let's try and get clarification. What's the problem? So,
again,
hold on, we don't want to do free agenting, so we're staying with the original questioner. Does that make sense or not to you?
No,
let her decide if it makes sense to her or not.
I'm going to be honest, no, it doesn't make sense.
And what's the missing link to you?
She's talking about CUNY, the state, whatever, right? The city universities, right? But we're public school and we have a great academics. So my understanding is, why don't you just, there was just a space next door that was being built upon and it ended up going to a private agency. So why wouldn't you have built maybe additional facilities for us there?
Hold on. The space next door, is that CUNY space? Is that CUNY space or not?
Now, I'm not familiar with that. I know that you're located on a CUNY campus, and as far as expanding within that campus, we cannot.
Right, that's not us. I think the problem here is, listen, so this is important. CUNY isn't us. We'd love it to be us, but it's not us. CUNY belongs to the state of New York. We contribute towards it, but the control of CUNY is the state of New York, so we do not control that land. But the question, so I understand, is if there's a capacity problem at the school, what is the best option to solving it?
The best option to solving that would probably be an annex off-site.
And has there been an investigation of a location off?
Not at this point.
And what's the overcrowding level roughly? Overcrowded. Okay. So this is what we'll do as an action plan. So you've raised a concern and you've raised a potential solution. My immediate understanding is that the immediate solution won't work, so we have to go find a new solution. She is in charge of all school construction for all of New York City, so you're talking to the right person. We'll have Lorraine follow up with you after, and we need any help you can give and local leaders to find the closest alternative space to add an annex or some additional space for the school. So that will be the follow-up. Thank you.
All right, we're going to come back to this side, but I feel like we haven't been over here yet, so I'm going to come over to this side a little bit. Oh, another of our host organizations for tonight is the Fifth Avenue Committee. So, Michelle.
Mayor de Blasio, first I just want to congratulate you on your most recent announcement about expanding the affordable housing program, and thank you for working with tenant advocates on a whole series of bills around tenant safety, and for working with Councilmember Bradlander on the soon-to-be legislation for certificate for no harassment. Those are all important tools to prevent displacement. But I think Fifth Avenue Committee and the Gowanus Neighborhood Coalition for Justice, which is working around the rezoning issues, believes there's yet another tool that would be helpful, and that is right now the methodology for looking at displacement that the city uses on land use actions is incredibly outdated and does not include looking at direct or indirect displacement risk related to land use actions for rent-stabilized buildings. You may remember when you were council member in this district that at the North Park Slope and the South Park Slope rezonings, we actually lost over 900 units of rent-stabilized housing in this neighborhood. And I'm wondering if in your second term you could commit to righting that wrong and ensuring that displacement risk is accurately assessed.
I really appreciate that question. The first part I want to say is, you'll remember that Fourth Avenue rezoning occurred during the Bloomberg years. And you will remember that I thought the way it was structured was wrong in terms of not having a mandatory affordable housing commitment as part of that rezoning. And I was very new at these issues. I didn't know the things that Brad knew, but I attempted to persuade the Bloomberg administration to do mandatory inclusionary zoning in the Fourth Avenue rezoning. And I remember vividly that a senior official told me they would, quote unquote, fight me to the death, which I found a little severe, but I was like, it's a rezoning, damn it, it's not that. But we now, just as one coda on your point, that was one of the experiences that convinced me that we needed mandatory inclusionary zoning to be part of everything the city does. And finally, thank God, that is law. On this question, I'm very sympathetic to this point. Michelle and I worked together when I was public advocate. She was my appointee on the City Planning Commission, and thank you for that. I'm sympathetic because I have seen the impact that I don't think was ever anticipated to be as bad as it was. And in fact, we are trying with a lot of other tools to stop the decline in rent-regulated housing, and we're seeing some of them work. Obviously, anti-eviction legal services is one good example. We also need to go back to Albany to strengthen the rent rules as quickly as possible. But no, I meant rent regulation writ large. But on this topic, I'm sympathetic. So I think we should look at it again.
And I am here wearing a different hat, Mr. Mayor.
I
am standing in for the Mayor's Office of Environmental Coordination, which owns the Secret Manual. And so I think
Tell people what a secret manual is, you wonk.
The City Environmental Quality
Not everyone
Review.
knows it, though. Go ahead.
Michelle and I speak the same technical language. What I think would be very helpful.
But tell people what it is.
The City Environmental Quality Review. It is the set of standards by which we look at the traffic impacts, the open space impacts, the air quality impacts of new developments.
It doesn't involve finding the snitch.
Very funny.
You know?
Very funny.
We maybe go there. What I think would be a helpful way forward would be for me to sit down with the head of the Office of Environmental Coordination, which owns the manual, and Michelle, to talk about the issues regarding displacement and how it's measured.
So I want to give it a little more energy. I think Michelle's looking in the right direction. I don't understand all the nuances of the SECRA manual. I've never seen the SECRA manual. They won't let me see it. It's above my classification, right?
Fortunate.
But I think this is a really powerful point. We have been losing housing. We have to account for that. We don't want it to happen. It should be part of the process. I'm not editorializing on how. I'm not editorializing on the nuances. I think it's a really fair point. So will you please sit with the chair and see what we can do? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go next to Alana. That's right.
Hi, my name is Alana. I'm a high school senior and the founder of District 39's Participatory Budgeting Youth Committee. So participatory budgeting is an amazing opportunity for students to engage in local government, and I was curious to whether you had any plans to support the expansion of participatory budgeting in particular, and then more broadly encourage youth civic engagement across the city in your next term.
Excellent. Thank you. So I think you just volunteered. So I think given the moment in history, especially, determining how to best foster youth participation is very much on my mind, but I don't know how to do it, and I would love help. I think one piece of this is what do we do in middle school and high school? What is the pathway? What is today's civic education / civic participation model that would actually work for young people and engage them? What do we do about getting young people registered to vote before they leave high school? What other methodologies do we have even after public school to engage? Obviously, CUNY, which we have a hand in, even if we don't control it, is an important piece. So I would love your help, and I'd love to put together with some of the members of my team, because I don't have a youth participation maximization plan, and I'd like to have one. Will you help me? Thank you. And so on the first part, so the participatory budgeting has unquestionably been a success. The narrow question, do we have a model for expansion today? We do not have a model of expansion today, but it's sort of a similar answer to the previous. It's working. I'd like to see more of it. We have to balance it with a whole host of budget challenges. I mean, the one thing that's true is when the money goes into that very good process, it doesn't go to other important needs, and we have to figure out that balance. But what I love about it is energizing a kind of participation that's really powerful. So we've got to figure out what that means in our next budget process, which will culminate in June. My heart says, let's keep expanding it. I'm not quite clear how yet, but I think it's the right track. Thank you.
All right.
Someone has a plan, they can give me their plan before they leave tonight.
Let's stay right over here. We'll go right next to Alana, to Chris. And then after that, we'll go right behind, too, so you can just pass the mic behind you.
Hi, my name is Chris, and I've also am a senior. I'm at Bard, not Beacon, though. And I've worked with Alana in the past, not only on participatory budgeting, but we help lead a youth group that lobbies the state government for voter reform, specifically for young people. So we created a bill, and thanks to Bobby Carroll, I don't know where he went, but thanks to him a lot, he created a bill with our ideas that would lower the state voting age to 17, introduce civics in high school curricula, and make voter registration an opt-out process. Now, my question is simple. Would you support lowering the voting age?
I'm going to say two parts, because I'm not sure I'm there yet. I'm willing to hear the arguments. And on first blush, I'm not there yet, but happy and open to it. Here's what I think is the more essential question, though, on the state electoral laws. They're broken, they're backwards, and people of all ages are not voting because of what's wrong with our state election laws. So I will happily work with you, and my team will, to see if that's the other jump we want to take. But here's what I think we have to do immediately. early voting in New York State, same-day registration in New York State, electronic poll books, and the Board of Education, we don't have that anymore, the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections is broken. It cannot work in its current form. Its time has come and gone in its current form. I want the legislation to pass in Albany, at minimum, to empower the executive director to professionally run the agency like a modern entity. If we don't do that, then a huge number of people are going to be disenfranchised because they're dealing with an antiquated system of just actually running the elections. It doesn't work anymore. So I'll listen to your thing and work with you, but I would say to you and everyone else, come to Albany. We're going to do a major campaign this spring. Come to Albany. Let's change New York State election law once and for all.
The future of the city is looking pretty bright, judged by the young people in this room so far, I would say. All right, last question for now from this section to Melissa, right behind Alana and Chris.
Thanks so much. My name is Melissa Thornton, and I am a parent of a third grader at PS 282 and also the co-secretary of the PTO. Shout out to all the parents and PTO members here from all the wonderful schools. Yeah. A few years ago, Councilmember Lander helped us identify some money to have our play yard resurfaced. It's actually part of the Park Slope playground, and it is Parks Department territory. There is a gigantic sinkhole in the middle that fills with water in the winter and then ices over, so for months at a time we can't use it.
Wait, I'm sorry, because I was writing something. Where again?
282.
282.
6th Ave between Berkeley and Lincoln.
Yeah, no, I know where it is. I just wanted to hear the number. And the actual sinkhole is where?
Right in the play yard between the younger children's pre-K playground and the public playground next door.
We have a sinkhole in the play yard.
Oh, yeah. And the budget has already been identified to repair it. We met with the DEP's Green Infrastructure Committee.
Well, I just want to check. Okay, very good bureaucrats. Which one of you is this? So
it's all property, but we're working together.
So Department of Environmental Protection, Commissioner Vinnie Sapienza,
yes,
can you solve this problem for us?
So my answer is...
Oh, you have the answer, okay.
No, well, my answer will be yes, we can help you. That would be wonderful.
Okay, good.
My question is, the funds were identified and the infrastructure team met and everything, and the plans were to implement the work in summer of 2018, but now it's been pushed back and we're being told summer of 2019. Because the plans aren't done, but it's literally a flat asphalt area. So if you need help with those plans, I can help. But I would love to know what we can do to get that implemented on the schedule.
Vinny, what can we do?
No, thanks for the question, and I didn't pick up until I heard 282. This is one of the paved playgrounds around the city that we are working with the Parks Department to convert, to put in some green infrastructure. It both, beautifies the urban landscape.
Wait. Could you tell people what green infrastructure is? Everyone, please speak accessible English this night from my team. What is green infrastructure in this?
So green infrastructure, just like it sounds, it's going to be plants and permeable soils.
Okay.
So that when it rains, instead of the water hitting a paved surface, running off and overwhelming the sewer system and causing flooding, it will be absorbed into the ground. So the work we had intended to do slipped a little bit. We can only, because school is in session, we can only work during the summer months. So because we missed last summer, it had to slip to this coming summer.
Okay, so wait. That sounds a little different though. But then wouldn't that get you done for 2018? Right. Wouldn't that get you done for September? Yeah, okay. I got you. Hold on. Seriously, hold, please, respectfully. We can't do a whole lot back and forth or we won't get to enough people. You really made your point well. I'm doing your questioning for you now.
Okay.
Vinny.
Yeah.
If you do it in the summer, it would be ready for September of 2018.
Of 2018.
Can we do that or not?
That's what I'm being told. Yeah.
Okay. That's a yes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a yes.
All right.
Thank you, John
Thank
Paul.
you. That's a big deal for PS 282. All right, we'll come to this section now to our friend from the Harbor School. We'll get there.
Hi. So our water quality is horrible in New York, and given there's a combined sewage overflow, after a heavy rainfall, all the sewage goes directly into the harbor. what is being done to update the waste treatment facilities?
In general? Is that the question? Like, what are we overall doing?
Yes, what are we going to do? What's New York City going to do to better the water quality in New York?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Big question. Thank you.
Good. So thank you. So New York City.
I'm sorry I got caught off guard because we went to from the sinkhole at PS282 to how are we going to fix New York City water quality? And that was a big transition. Go ahead, Vinny.
So like many municipalities that are older around the country, there's in New York City something called a combined sewer system where under most streets there's just one sewer pipe that collects both sanitary sewage from homes and businesses and stormwater runoff that runs off the street. And at times the system can be overwhelmed, and while most of the wastewater gets to a sewage treatment plant and is treated, some of it can be released into local waterways. We've done a lot over the years. In the past 30 years, we've reduced overflows by about 80%, and the waterways surrounding New York City are cleaner than they've been in more than a century. We've actually been taking samples, the city of New York, every year since 1909. So the waterways are vastly improved, but we still have a lot of work to do, and we've got long-term control plans at a lot of water bodies. We're going to be spending about $5 billion over the next 20 years, in addition to the money we've already spent, to make those improvements.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks from the Harbor School, and I know there's an effort to get a Harbor School middle school, maybe in Red Hook in the coming years, so that's very exciting as well. All right, let's go back to Sarah back there. Yeah.
We won't forget you. It's a long night.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Sarah. I'm a program director at the Downtown Brooklyn YABC with Good Shepherd Services. And I'm here with quite a few staff and maybe most importantly, students from YABCs. So I'm going to pass the mic to one of our students with our question.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Velasco, and I attend the Young Adult Borough Center at FDR High School. YBCs are designed to help students like me get a second chance at earning their high school diploma and
Just speak up a little more, get closer.
And moving on to college or find full-time work. The Department of Education has proposed cuts of up to $254,000 per site. These cuts are dramatic and will significantly damage the LTW model and will impact the success of myself and future programs.
Can you say, either one of you, I'm not familiar with any proposed cut. The cut is to what?
$254,000.
But what type of program? That's what I'm confused about.
The Learning to Work program with YABC's Young Adult Borough Centers.
The Young Adult Borough Centers.
That's right. So the cut is proposed at $254,000 for the next.
This is news to both. She's the deputy chancellor. I'm the mayor. We don't know about this, so we're trying to understand what it is because we don't remember. I just did a whole budget in June. The council voted on it. I don't remember any cut to young adult services.
I would love to be wrong.
So, hold on. Yeah, I like that answer. I'd love to be wrong. I know that feeling. What?
Thank you for your question. We recently looked at the YABC programs, and what we're doing is making a base payment to each of the sites. But that doesn't mean that if you go over the number of students that are there, you will get additional money. But all your services should still be there. The work program funding is still in place, and we've still been working with the superintendent to get that done as well.
These are YBCs in general. My understanding was that transfer schools are looking for additional funding, and that funding would be taken from the YBC program.
Okay, I want to stop you there because, again, we do too much back and forth. A lot of people aren't going to get to ask their questions. So
two separate programs.
Two separate programs.
Yes,
on that concept, I have not heard any cut on transfer schools either.
No, not
at
all.
She will follow up with you on the specific, but both of us don't know.
There aren't any YBC cuts?
Again, you're done. I respect you, but you can't keep going back and forth if we're going to keep this whole town hall meeting going.
Okay.
So we know of no cuts. The deputy chancellor will see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll come back to you guys, but they're going to getting restless over on this side, so I'm going to come over. Sit down, though. I promise it'll be easier. So, okay, right here in the reddish hair. Yes. Is your hair not reddish? Anyway.
It looks reddish to me.
Okay.
All right.
There are two people with
reddish
hair.
They
both have reddish-looking hair.
Okay.
Let's let them both go. You go first, and then the other person with reddish-looking hair will go.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry this evening, if you don't have reddish-looking hair, you will not be called on. It's just the one rule.
Then we're going to go to the bald guy in the back.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. My name is Maria Muley. I am a Rockaway resident, and I wanted to thank you for the ferry because it has improved our life.
Excellent.
However,
However, I've been out of my home for 5 years because of Hurricane Sandy.
Right.
I have oil contamination in my home. We cleaned it out, but there's land contamination that is in place. I went to build it back, and the director had said the oil can stay. What I don't understand is, as an environmentalist and keeping everything green, how can a family of 5 live on an oil spill of petroleum fuel oil that has contaminated the land and water?
Okay, I don't know the situation. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. I don't know it. When you say it like that, I share your concern because that sounds like it might be a problem. But I also need to know the specifics. Have you had an opportunity to meet directly with Amy Peterson, who runs the program?
I actually had conversations with her, but her response was that the oil could stay in place.
Okay.
And in addition to that, she would be willing to fix the first and second floor. But there's no need to spend taxpayer money of $280,000 and have a family even living on oil
Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. And this is the way, again, I've done this, as I said, this is my 42nd town hall meeting, so I've had every conceivable question from every conceivable kind of New Yorker. I respect the question. Our job is to make sense of the facts and then tell you what we think is right.
But she told me to hire a lawyer.
Okay, we're not doing, guys, we really have to get out of the back and forth or we're not going to get to enough people. So you've said everything, just hand over the microphone respectfully so that we can finish this item and then we're going to go on to someone else. I'm going to ask the Commissioner of Environmental Protection, who's right there, the Commissioner of Environmental Protection, who's responsible for the environmental protection of all of New York City, to talk to you and have the site looked at and coordinate with Amy Peterson and see if, from a DEP perspective, there's a problem that has to be addressed. If there is, we'll address it. If he believes and his team believes it's okay as it is, we're going to say that to you, but it will be assessed. He will follow up. Thank you. Okay, and I'm just going to say, before you start, person with red hair, that I really want to beg of everyone. If I need to get a clarifying question in of you so I can answer, I will ask you. But it's not debate club, or we will just not be able to get to dozens and dozens of people. So lay down your concern the first time. That's it. If I need to ask you a question, I'll ask you a question. But the goal is quick question. I'll do my best to give a quick answer, and then trying to get to a lot more people. Go.
All right. And my red hair is purchased, so I don't know if it counts.
Still counts.
I'm a volunteer in Prospect Park. Whoa, sorry about that. And so I'm in the park every single day.
Yes.
The small picture is what I see day to day in terms of how a lot of the improvements and a lot of the investment is going to people attractions, going to things like the ice skating rinks, going to things that have to do with bringing more people in, bringing in more foot traffic. But I'm a lover of nature, and Prospect Park is one of the few parks in the country that hosts wildlife.
Right.
We're on the northern fly zone.
What do you, give me your punchline.
My concern is, just the same as you have Vision Zero,
Yep.
can the mayor's office come up with a comprehensive vision for our parks? Because it's very piecemeal. We are treating Prospect Park in many ways the same ways we treat Bryant Park in many programs, in many aspects. They're starting to blast the music.
I mean, that's good. I think I have the essence of your question. So let's answer it. So Marty Marr is here, our Brooklyn Parks Commissioner. I want to assist this question here. Grab it. Stand up. Sure. Come on. What do we say? You come over to me when people ask about your topic. Come on over. So I think it's a real interesting question. I've spent a lot of time in the park. Shirlene and I were walking around the park this summer, one summer morning, noting how peaceful it can be. But you also have a really good point that, yeah, you're right. A lot of what's been doing is attracting more people. Now, I would argue going car-free is a really good balancing of this equation, so good thing. But your question is real interesting. How do we think about where it's going, and where do we want it to go, and what limits do we want to put on the level of activity? So, do you want to start answering?
Yes, absolutely.
Introduce yourself to the world.
Sue Donahue, the president of the Prospect Park Alliance. You do raise a good question.
Louder.
Sorry.
Closer. The amazing Sue Donahue, in charge of Prospect Park. Come on.
Thank you. It's something that we think constantly about. And in any public park, and having worked in the Parks Department prior to this, it's a balance between active recreation and passive and restorative areas.
So do we have a plan or vision is the question.
We always do anything we do. You mentioned the skating rink. When we renovate renovated the skating rink, we added 3 acres of parkland. We took away a gigantic parking lot in that. When we are looking to do what we do, which is restore the historic design, we're always looking to how can we also add to the parkland, make it more peaceful, add to the landscape, improve the ecosystem.
Okay, so that's hold there. And the other thing I heard was, do we do that for all parks and sort of think how it all connects?
Absolutely. We're always looking at ways to improve the environment. We have
like a bigger vision as well.
Yes, we have a natural resources group that improves habitat. All the time when we're doing any kind of renovation, we try to use green infrastructure, capturing stormwater, making habitat, improving trees, improving air quality.
Okay.
So that's given it to any
we're
design.
on the right track. So I'm going to stop you there because we just are going to keep moving to other topics. But will you see Marty and Sue after and raise specific ideas that you'd like to see acted on? Thank you.
I also heard they're working on a cow plan for the park, so that's
current events joke. Very good.
But, I was rude to Glenn Kelly, so I'm going to give him the next question. Then we'll do one more in this section, and we'll come over here.
Thank you, Brad. Glenn Kelly from Carroll Gardens. Hi, Mayor de Blasio. 10 years ago, your support was vital to our improving Carroll Gardens through a contextual rezoning. I'm here to ask for your support for the next phase, and that involves the expansion of the Landmark District in Carroll Gardens, which is one of the smallest ones in the city. I hope we can count on your support.
So the simple answer is this. I am interested in that option. I'm not going to commit yet for a variety of reasons, but it's on my radar, and I'm interested. And I know there's a lot of interest in the community. So it's a city of 8.5 million people, but I also remember where I came from, and I know people care a lot about this. So if the people renew my employment contract, I will be looking at this with Landmarks Preservation Commission. We'll be talking about the whole broader neighborhood and what to do. So I'm just going to purposely not give you a firm answer, but say I will be personally attending to it. Thank you.
All right. So we'll come over to this section, and then we'll come back. All right. Well, actually, you know what? So I think I promised this woman in the blue. So, all right. We're going to work our way all around the room as much as we can. There's a lot of folks with their hands up. I promise. I'm just going to keep calling on people.
My turn?
Your turn.
Hi, good evening. My name is Norella Carroll, PTA President for Medgar Evers College Preparatory School. We are gem in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. We have a 97% graduation rate, and we on the top 6% of best school nationwide. We are not a failing school.
Yes.
However, DOE plans to dismantle our school by changing our admission process and realigning our curriculum. What can you do to prevent DOE from dismantling a highly successful school?
It's a very successful school. Okay. This one, I want everyone to really key in on what I'm saying, please, because I've looked at this personally. It's a very successful school. I know the principal. I've been very impressed by what the school's achieved. We would never do anything to undermine a school that is succeeding. We are taking the admissions process, the beginning of the admissions process, which for, I think it's 20 or 30 schools in the city that are similar, are all individualized right now, and we're trying to get everyone on a universal footing of how you apply, just how you apply to begin with, that parents can apply to multiple schools using a single process, not having to do a bunch of individualized process. But the decisions on the recruiting and on the evaluation of students and on the selection of students remain just as they are now. So I understand why there's a lot of concern. Of course, anyone hears a bureaucracy doing something, they think it could have dire consequences. But I have personally gone over this with the Deputy Chancellor in charge of admissions. It is not going to change how students are selected for the school. We have briefed the principal on this as recently as this week. So I rest assured the outcome will be the same for the school, and the school will be protected. That's coming from me. I am convinced that's the case.
All right, we're going to come over to this section, and we'll take Yerucham in the front row.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. I think we've met before.
I believe I've met you, Mr. Silber.
Yeah. Question may not be very popular there, but it's about Prospect Park. And let me say, I love the park. I've lived near the park most of my life. My wife and I try to go walking there every Sunday. But I'm also a driver, and I drive often from southern Brooklyn, Kensington Borough Park towards Crown Heights,
what's the punchline?
Park Slope. Punchline is, 2 hours in the morning, I don't think was unreasonable. Streets like Parkside Avenue, Ocean Avenue, Prospect Park Southwest are congested as is. I could just imagine those 2 hours in the morning, how much worse congestion will be in those side streets. I think it would have been reasonable to keep those 2 hours up in the morning just for during the really serious rush hour.
So appreciate it. I've known you forever and respect the question greatly. We thought about this a lot. This went in stages over years, testing the impact. The commissioner can be more expert about it than I can. But look, I want to say this. She'll speak to why we believe the impact is limited. I want to speak to the human dynamic. As a parent who had kids in that park and people of all ages trying to enjoy that space, cars whooshing by when you're going for a walk or you're going for a bike ride, it just does not make sense. That's not what the park is for. And we lost a life some years ago of a bicyclist in the park. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I understand there may be some inconvenience. I don't think it's too much. But this is about Vision Zero, and this is about the quality of life for a huge number of people who use the park.
And I'll just add, and you're familiar with this, as we've continued to close entrances and reduce hours, cars have increasingly found other routes. In the next couple months, before we actually take away those final couple of hours, we're going to do some traffic adjustments in some of the areas where we see those hotspots, look at signal timings and other things. And we'll obviously come talk to any of the members of the community and take their ideas. We think we can really minimize the impact.
All right, let's come here to the woman in the maroon. Yeah.
Thank you. A very pleasant good evening to you, Mayor. My name is Lorna Fairweather, and I'm a proud parent of a student who has been at Medgar for 6 years, the same MECPS that was mentioned earlier. And Your Honor, we do not have a gym, respectfully. Can you imagine a school in New York City without a gym? So why don't we have a gym? And the other person who spoke earlier was incorrect. She said that there is no space. We have a Phase 2 program that is a part of the relationship with Medgar. We have the physical designated land space at Medgar Evers College that has been designated for
I got you.
Phase 2.
I got it.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do. This is Lorraine Grillo. She's in charge. If every time you see a school being built anywhere in New York City, or a pre-K center, or anything, she's in charge of that. She makes it happen. She's the top of the whole thing. Okay. She's going to come over to you. That's right. You'll organize a group of people to show her the reality at the school. She will come to the school. Absolutely. She's going to look at that. If there's designated, she'll meet with the CUNY people, whatever it takes. If there's something we can get our hands on for gym space that we don't know about, we want it, period. Or if there's an additional space needed for classroom space. It's a strange bureaucratic world we live in, and you would think we would know everything about other agencies and other levels of government, but sometimes we don't. If you can show us something we don't know, we'll jump on it because we already have funding in place to provide gym space for every school that doesn't have it. If that doesn't work, then we'll work with you to find a different space. But she will find a time and come meet with you there in the community. Thank you.
All right, let's come right here in the gray jacket. All right.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to dialogue. Everyone appreciates it. I also asked this question as part of the Gowanus Neighborhood Coalition for Justice and as the executive director of the Southwest Brooklyn Industrial Development Corporation. As the Gowanus rezoning process continues, can this administration make a commitment to at least study, prioritize, maybe find funding sources for investments, really critical investments in the industrial business zone and in the industrial companies that have been here, the whole reason the Gowanus is here, and that really create and subsidize the quality, accessible jobs that local residents need. So as we think about all the changes here, I think we've just heard a little bit of lack of that type of investment.
I appreciate the question. So look, I'll start, and if the chair wants to add anything, she will. Let me offer my take on rezonings in general, because I think it's important to hear from me, because it's the council, the city council's involved, the city planning commission's involved, but this is said with no hubris, and obviously the people have to decide what they want to do about my employment contract, but in the end, A rezoning is going to happen or not happen if I decide it's going to happen or not happen. Now, the council has the ultimate dispositive role, but I'm saying we have to decide if we even want to do a rezoning in each case. And to decide if we want to do a rezoning, to answer this really gets to the core of what you're saying. The first thing we care about is affordable housing. It's not in any way undermining the importance of your work. I decide if we're even going to get involved if I feel there's going to be enough affordable housing. And then if we say we're going down this road and we're going to get involved, then everything's on the table. Everything is on the table. Depending on the community, it might be more open space, it might be more school space, it might be job development, it might be public housing investments. Everything and anything can be discussed. Now, in terms of the industrial space, I heard you say, help the companies. I just want to caution, we are pretty careful not to generally help companies directly, with some exceptions. We tend to think in terms of the physical space itself. And that's something where City Planning and Economic Development Corporation would come to the table, and they're going to have their own views too. But everything is on the table. Everything is in play, is the way I look at it. Affordable housing first. Job creation, job preservation, very important to me, particularly working class jobs, good paying jobs for everyday New Yorkers. But I also want to listen to my team about where those fit and what is physically needed. We just did that, for example, in East New York. Made a major investment to do something we thought would ultimately create as many as 4,000 jobs in East New York, a community that desperately needs them. So when we see something we think is appealing, we're ready to put real resources into it. So everything is in play if we get to the launching point of going for a rezoning.
And thank you, Ben. This is something that I know that the whole community will continue to work with the DCP and the mayor and push on. All right, let's come right here. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Abraham Ohari. And this question is understandable for Mr. de Blasio. This answer is tough, so I wanted to ask you if it's possible if some jobs are offering jobs for me, because I have a job, I work in an office, and the economy is like low, meaning that I'm not getting paid the right way. So I want to ask you, which would you prefer? Do you prefer if I should back off and speak to you?
No, do you mean to say what do I prefer in terms of how we best can help someone? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is that I'm not getting paid right now. I'm in a job, but I'm not getting paid right now.
You're in the job but not getting paid?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not getting paid the right way.
Okay. I want our folks to follow up. Victor Calisi is here from my office. I would like him to personally follow up. If you're not getting paid, we want to follow up on that. Or if you need other job opportunities, we want to follow up on that. So I think given that it's very personal to you, let us do that personally with you. Okay?
All right. I mean, I thought I could speak to you about it, so...
Well, it's just in terms of trying to cover a lot of ground, Victor's going to help you. He's the right guy.
All right, we'll go to Joanne behind. Right.
Thank
you. That was quick.
Once again, how you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Good to see you.
How you doing, Brandon? Thank you.
Get the microphone closer.
Okay.
There you go.
Now, I didn't get a chance to ask this question last time over there, Brother Steve Levins. Now, you mentioned that you put out millions of dollars worth for night shift, remember?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, my question to you is, who is going to be monitoring all the money that you in place for NYCHA, and I mean the whole city of NYCHA, okay? Who's going to be putting, watching over them, and then who's going to be watching the watchers to making sure that this money is going to be put in the right places, rather dealing with the people, for instance, I had infested a mold that was in my apartment at one time in 2013, and then my manager, at first they did not believe me, but now I'm sick, but I'm okay, you understand? But And I also have got documentation. That's not a problem. But I just need you to make sure that it's going to be put in the right places so that the people can be getting all the help. And also, too, can you make sure that they put in some more new maintenance people that can help the people to get the work done? That's what I'm trying to say here. I need them to do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. So, okay, so what we did, I just want to do the quick recap of what we have done, and then you ask a very powerful question, how we will make sure it actually happens. Here's what we did. We came to office, and I want to give the council credit too. They've been equally concerned with this. I was shocked when I saw the full reality of how much physical need there was in NYCHA. It turns out to be $18 billion of need, and we didn't have anywhere near that money. So we said, how do we start to find as much money as possible to direct to NYCHA? When we came into office, NYCHA, it's unbelievable, our housing authority had to pay the NYPD for police service. It's unbelievable reality. We canceled that. We gave the money back to NYCHA. NYCHA had to pay the City of New York taxes, which it had been doing since the 1940s. We canceled that. We gave the money back to NYCHA. All that went into repairs. Then the problem was the roofs. In the June budget, we put $1 billion to fix 900 roofs, 900 building roofs around the city. So now you say, okay, good start. How do we make sure it happens? So the oversight, City Hall, me and the deputy mayor who oversees NYCHA, we are one part of the oversight. The Office of Management and Budget, which gave them the money and wants to make sure it is spent properly and fast, is another oversight. The City Council, which has hearings on NYCHA regularly through the Public Housing Committee, is another oversight. So right there are 3 levels, totally different, all looking to make sure that NYCHA does what they say to do. But also a good thing, I mean, this is another form of oversight too, because I've gone to town hall meetings and residents have said to me, here's a problem with a manager, or here's a problem with maintenance and all, and that literally we brought that right back to NYCHA to get it addressed quickly. So all of these are ways that we keep an eye on the situation to make sure the money is actually spent properly. Go ahead.
And I'll just add, we take watching the watchers real seriously. If you've ever seen Richie Torres chair one of the NYCHA hearings, we work closely together, but we do try to hold folks accountable. And just like we're fighting in the Gowanus rezoning to make sure there's investments in the industrial business zone, Joanne, you know that we're fighting in the rezoning to make sure that there's investments in public housing in Gowanus and Wyckoff and Warren Street as well. All right, so let's go to one of the students here.
Hi, I'm Chloe Pachetti. I'm an 8th grader at MS51 Middle School. I'd like to address that the MS51 community alone has lost 3 students to hit and runs. I'm also an 8th grader here at MS51. My name is Anastasia Leahy, and our question is, when will Vision Zero be able to integrate speed cameras in front of every New York City public school? And specifically in schools like ours with an open campus lunch?
I want to see if the assembly member wants to make a guest appearance on this one, because this is a question really for Albany. Our vision here is, or the senator, yes, I'm sorry, the senator too. Our belief is we should steadily increase the number of speed cameras in front of public schools. We've gone up to Albany year after year. We've been stymied. We got some, which made a big, big difference, but we have been stymied regularly in Albany. So I want an even bigger effort going into this legislative session, which begins in January and culminates in June. The advocacy groups have been outstanding. We're going to have to go back with a very, very aggressive campaign to get more cameras. But if either member wants to speak to that, if you don't have anything, that's fine too. But I think it's going to be a big fight in Albany is the answer. We want them.
Thank you. It has been a big fight in Albany. It has been less of a fight, and we passed the bill that we all wanted in the Assembly, and the roadblock seems to have been in the Senate. So I would suggest that something that people can do is to really write to your senator and write to the governor, because if the governor wants to push the Senate to do this, he has the ability to do that where he can. So I think it is really incumbent upon us to make sure that everybody in the Senate really understands what's at stake here. And I think that you young ladies can speak to this very eloquently and in a way that so many other people can't. And so we're looking forward to hearing from you. And I'm sure that your senator is looking forward to hearing from you as well. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jesse.
I just want to say that's an excellent question, and we've been fighting for that in the New York State Senate. Myself, Jose Peralta, and hopefully we can get the bill passed this next year coming up. I'll be working with the mayor and with Brad and Joanne Simon to make sure to make this happen. So you have my commitment that I will be voting on it and making sure my colleagues vote on it in the New York State Senate.
But in terms of, thank you very much, Senator, in terms of right now, like what you can do thing, I think we need even more pressure on all of them. I mean, these two are committed, and that's great. But I think in the entire city delegation, all the assembly members, all of the senators, and yes, the governor, need to hear more consistently from the people in New York City that this is a real priority. It's so obvious. I mean, I've had this conversation, including with Republican state senators, that this is about saving lives, disproportionately affects students and seniors, right? So what's more important, the constituents who don't like to be caught when they're speeding, or saving lives of students and seniors? And I also remind them, you won't be caught speeding if you're not speeding, right? And so it's not like we're so bad because we went and caught you while you were speeding. You shouldn't have been speeding to begin with. So you guys could do great work organizing students and parents to up the volume on this between now and June. It would help us immensely.
And I mean, I'm maybe just going to extend this question a little to the senator because, I think you invoked them, but I think we should mention their names. Sammy Cohen-Eckstein and Joey Sellers and Naeem Udin were all students in this school, the same class, and they all were killed in traffic crashes over the course of about a year. But because their family members started speaking out, that's what changed how the council thinks about these issues. When Amy came and testified, that's what changed us. So I guess, Senator, can we make sure that the family members of those students have the opportunity to speak to members of the Senate and have that heard and hopefully change the minds that we need to change? All right, thank you. All right, we'll come to Doug and then to Sean. All right.
Excuse me, ma'am. Welcome home, Mr. Mayor. My name is Doug Schneider. I'm a trustee of the Civic Council and the chair of our age-friendly Park Slope Committee. My question is about snow removal and Vision Zero. And every time we have a significant snow, the snow plows come through. They do an excellent job. For some reason, in the last 4 years, our neighborhood started getting plowed first. We appreciate that.
No comment.
But my question is this. When the snowplows come through, they build up giant mounds in front of the curb cuts. Those mounds turn to icebergs. They're the last thing to melt. And the practical reality is that means if you have any mobility challenges, you're rendered homebound. And if you are pushing a stroller, you end up having to push your stroller down the avenue to get your kid to school, obviously contrary to Vision Zero.
Okay, so our sanitation commissioner is here, our transportation commissioner is here. They both know the neighborhood very well. It's a real issue. It's a little bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, to be fair, because in a really big snow, you kind of have to make things move somehow, and it just takes a long time for the snow to melt off. But Commissioner Garcia, tell us, it's a really fair concern. What's the best we can do to balance those factors when you're trying to clear the streets, but also protect the curb cuts?
Right, so we are always going to prioritize plowing the streets to make sure that other first responders can get through so that we can get ambulances through, fire, and PD. Now, we then move very quickly and hire thousands of snow laborers to go after the quality of life issues, which is both ped ramps as well as fire hydrants, bus stops, bike lanes, and now the new the audio crossings, which we get from DOT. We also work really closely with the Mayor's Office of Disabilities. If there are specific locations that you need us to be prioritizing first, we will do that as we roll out the quality of life portion of it, because we don't want anyone to be trapped homebound.
And I will just add, speaking on the Vision Zero angle, I mean, our two departments do try and work together very closely when we have big snowstorms to try and get to those locations we know are important for mobility, we know are important for people cycling. So we try best we can to coordinate, but we need to hear from people where there are problem areas.
All right, 2 more questions in this section, Sean and then Marisa, and then we're going to come over here. I'm sorry. Well, all right, then we'll come back to this section.
Hi, thank you very much, Mayor. I'm very concerned about the vendors, the street vendors, and I know that you've said many times that you're concerned that brick and mortar businesses suffer unfair competition from the street vendors. But actually, there's been a lot of academic research done on this very topic, and we've collected it here for you today. And it says that that's not true, what you happen to think. It might be difficult at first or surprising, but I'm asking, my question to you is, I've summarized this into a one-pager. Would you personally please be willing to read this one-pager
Sure.
and correct your, what I think is wrong assumption? Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate your effort, and I appreciate your kindness in not assuming I'm wrong, but giving me a chance to see if I'm wrong. But I don't want all this. I want the one-pager. All right, because anyone who puts something on one page, I like them already. I will look at it and consider it. I'll tell you, I'm always willing to be proven wrong. I really am. I think there's all sorts of things where we learn over time that our original assumptions are not right. There's all sorts of things where research shows us something we didn't realize, or there's unintended consequences. I still would say, any way you slice it, the legislation has to balance a variety of factors. I'm going to say, for the purpose of this discussion, bricks and mortar stores, the number of licenses that make sense, how to create an actual enforcement mechanism and regulatory mechanism so there's not a black market, how to make sure that we expand to the proper number. All of these things have to be put into this process, which I think could be just in the next few months. So I will consider that as part of the package. Thank you.
All right, and after this, I'm going to try for a more sectional equity approach and do maybe one question from each section so we don't have section, but I promised Marisa next. So.
Hi, my name is Marissa Luft. I'm a 9th grader at New York City High School. And I have an awesome little sister who also has a disability. And I know that not all public schools can serve my sister well. And I wanted to ask what more you plan to do to make sure that all public schools can better support students with disabilities.
Okay. I want to just ask a specific question back. Could you get the microphone back? Are you talking about physical access to buildings, or are you talking about a specific programmatic issue? What is the question specifically?
More like learning disabilities. Well, focusing on both, but generally learning disabilities.
So you're saying, what can New York City schools do better to address the needs of kids with learning disabilities? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Deputy Chancellor.
Thank you for your question. We're a big proponent of students with special needs, and we have a lot of great programs. If there's a specific school that you're concerned about, I'll talk to you afterwards. But I have to tell you that New York City has one of the best special ed programs probably in the country, because we are on top of everything. We really work with the advocates, and we work very hard on that. If there are concerns, we're there for you. It is our #1 priority. We have a wonderful Deputy Chancellor who is doing this work, Corinne Rillo, and she has great people in the field that also wants to make sure that the programs are in place. Okay. Lots of professional development for teachers. We're doing a lot of work around integrated classrooms. We're doing a lot of mainstreaming. We're doing a lot of work to make sure that the children are working in an environment that's suitable for them.
So if you have, so the Deputy Chancellor will also follow up with you afterwards to see if there's other specific things you want to pursue.
And I will say there's a lot of work. Commissioner Calise was out here. He is pushing all of us, the council, the schools, the businesses, to do better to make sure the city is more accessible to people with physical disabilities as well. So I thank you for that work. All right. In this section here in the second row. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting to speak. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for taking my question. So I know you heard from a lot of the parents of Medgar Evers College Preparatory School, and I have to say I applaud your efforts to diversify the schools and certain districts that had certain problems. In terms of Medgar Evers College Preparatory School, as you know, it is a predominantly African-American school that is highly successful. I understand you have to change the admissions process to diversify it. The sixth grade class...
I didn't say that. I said we wanted to, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to make sure we're all speaking the same language. There are dozens of schools right now that do not, I'm going to do the best to interpret from everything I've heard, that don't work through the core of our admissions process so that if a parent wants to apply, again, they end up in a situation of sort of multiple admissions processes. We're trying to simplify that with everything going through a single portal, if you will, where you apply for a bunch of schools the same exact way. But as I said earlier, what happens next will be consistent with what's happening now.
If I may add to that, just to clarify my question. If you change the portal of how the admissions process take place, the 150 students that go through a rigorous selection process of examination, interviewing, test taking, those 150 students will not have all those seats available to them.
Again, in the interest of not getting too deep in, so let me just, hold on.
This is my point.
I heard your point.
No, here's the point. The point is...
Ma'am, we've taken 4 questions already from Medgar Evers parents or students.
My point is, where would when you have a curriculum that makes you an AP scholar, you could graduate with your associate's degree, you could do all these different things, where would those kids go if you deny them that?
I'm going to try it one more time, because I think my previous answer was nothing is changing in the selection process, only the front part, not the selection process. So the same criteria that you're using now are going to be used, and I would assume would yield a very similar outcome in terms of the school population. But what I'd like you to do is meet with, we'll have the Deputy Chancellor get the folks who are actually working on this to talk to you directly so you can hear it right from them. Sure, they'll come to your school, that's fine. But the point is, I think this is about trying to create a more consistent process, but not taking away that which is special about a specific school.
All right, we'll come here in the blue shirt.
Hi, good evening. My name is Naftali Moster, and I'm the founder and executive director of YAFED, Young Advocates for Fair Education. Why is it that in such a progressive city, tens of thousands of Hasidic boys are being robbed of an education every day? An investigation into it has been going on for more than 2 years, and it's becoming increasingly clear that politics is stalling the release of the report and enforcement of New York State law, which requires non-public schools to provide an education that is substantially equivalent. I know you've been asked this question.
We're going to have to.
I'm going quick.
You got the question in, so let the mayor answer.
No, it's not the question.
Okay?
So I just want to eliminate 2 answers. Please don't say it's too complicated because it's not.
You don't get to tell them what the answers are or not.
You just ask the question, and you don't get to eliminate answers. You can run for mayor if you want, and then you could eliminate answers. But right now, you ask me a question, I'm going to answer the question. I have been working on this issue with the chancellor. I know you're an adamant advocate, and I appreciate that. You, I would urge, should have a little faith, and I know you don't, but I would urge you to have it, that we may share more of a goal than you realize. We believe that what we're doing is going to get us to a day where we address these problems foundationally. Now, there is a study going on, and it's being done resolutely. There have been some issues along the way, but it is being done. I think the dialogue we're having now with the yeshiva community, we're making very clear where we have to end up, and we're giving people an opportunity to have a give and take, but we're being very clear about where we have to end up. I believe that's what's going to get us there. That is the answer.
And we only have till 10, so I'm going to ask that we really go to a lightning round.
15 minutes left.
15 minutes. So, all right, Mamnoon.
Thank you, Brad. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Mamnoon Haq. I'm a Kensington resident and leader of the Bangladeshi community in Kensington. My question on housing. It's really hard to see my community member, immediate community members, and other community members.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off on purpose. Because it's 15 minutes left, and he just said the word lightning round, I'm going to ask everyone to try your best. Just go right to the question.
Right.
I don't need any framing. Go right to the question.
Okay. I mean, you promised to the New Yorkers that you'll build 200,000 affordable housing unit throughout New York City. But I haven't seen, and we haven't seen anything happen in our area, Kensington.
Right.
So my question is, do you have any plan in the future to build any affordable housing for low-income people or immigrants people who live in Kensington?
I got it. Lightning round. I got it. Yes, we want to be in every neighborhood. But remember, 60% of the affordable housing plan is preserving apartments in place. This, with all due respect to the media, they have not done a good job of explaining this to the people. The plan originally was 500,000 people were going to be covered. Now it's going to be 750,000 people. But 60% of that is identifying people and giving them a subsidy and keeping them in their own apartment. That's what the preservation piece is. And we do it by building, typically. So what we need to do is get our housing department, and they'll follow up with you. Who's here from HPD? HPD, oh, there you go. You will follow up. You don't have to say anything right now. You can do a direct follow-up. We are looking for locations that would be ripe for either preservation of existing or, in some cases, where we can build affordable. And in Kensington, that could also include building on top of some public sites right now. So we're absolutely looking to do it in every conceivable neighborhood. Deputy Commissioner will follow up. Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Nora Huertero y quisiera hacer la pregunta de si usted apoya la ley 385B, que es para que esté libre de asma. Tengo dos razones.
Okay, I just want to interrupt also. Hold on. I know it's a very important question. In the interest of everyone's time, if you could just summarize just the question. I don't need any lead up, just the question. Go ahead.
If you support Law 385B, that's about asthma.
385B. Hold on, I'm looking in the back. 385B, I don't know it by number. Do you know it by number?
Legislation that's Rosie Mendez's. You're a little bit familiar with this.
Come forward. John Paul Lupo is going to help me with this. This is our City Legislative Affairs Director who does all our liaison. Give him a round of applause. Wait, John Paul. Just want to say, every time a good piece of legislation gets passed in the City Council, John Paul Lupo was a part of it. So, pride of Brooklyn. Go ahead, Jake.
So this is legislation introduced by Rosie Mendez on mold and asthma. We're working on it with the City Council. We're hoping to get something done soon.
Our hope is by the end of the year while she's still in office. So we're not finished, but we are hopeful to get it passed by December. Thank you.
All right, and this question in the back, yes.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a parent at K280. And I have a question about crossing guards. We started the school year with a crossing guard at each end of the block at the Bishop Ford Center where there are 450 kids.
Yep.
We lost one in a couple weeks, then we lost another one. We finally got one back, but we're down one.
You need another one.
Well, but more than that, the city needs more crossing guards.
I believe you, and we've been adding. But right now, you need another one, right?
We do.
Okay, so the answer is lightning round, so the answer is you're going to get another one.
Great.
Absolutely, you deserve a second one, and the inspector will make it happen.
And that was filled today.
That was filled today. He made it happen.
All right, so the rest of them then.
Second, way to go.
All right. This is painful. I'm sorry. All right, right here.
And yes, by the way, to the larger question, very quickly, we have been adding money to the budget. I agree 100%. We need 100% coverage on crossing guards. We did what we think we did in the June budget will actually allow for that consistently. It's ramping up. We're still hiring. But I think after this school year, we should be at that consistently.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
My question has to do with the school.
Again, lightning round.
High schools, middle schools.
Lightning round, what's the question?
Okay. The fair students funding.
Yep.
I can't, program.
Right.
Equation. This school, Ms. Berner's school, gets 87% of what they think she needs.
Okay.
The school that my daughter's going to now.
I got it. So the question is, you're saying
some schools get 100, some schools get over.
You're saying, how are we going to make it fair?
Yes.
I got it. I figured that one out.
Good.
Okay. So we have been, there was massive inequalities in school funding historically. We said 4 years ago we were going to consistently move each year towards a 100% baseline for every school. We're not going to take away, some schools have had some special funding, we're not going to claw it back. We're going to bring everyone up to a 100% baseline level. This school, every school. We predict we will hit that by 2021 or 2022. It's an incremental move using largely state funding, but it is moving apace, and it will get done.
Okay.
The gentleman right behind you, the gentleman there.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Brad. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. I have a completely different question.
Yes.
During the New York City ID program, hundreds of undocumented people they have registered. So now they have feared that whether the information will be secret to the city.
I got it. I got it.
Hand over
I got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody who has applied since the beginning of the year for IDNYC has not been asked to leave background documents as was done in the past, because obviously the advent of the Trump administration. So, and this is something we did with the NYPD, everyone agreed we would no longer ask to retain those documents. The previous documents by law are slated for destruction. There is a court case brought by a certain assembly member from Staten Island, or two assembly members actually, to try and stop us from destroying that backup information, and we believe that would expose a lot of immigrants if the information was not destroyed. We believe we will win that court case ultimately, and we will be able to destroy the documents, but we have to finish the court case first.
All right, let's come here in the stripes.
Hi, I'm Clementine Loriaga, and I'm a current 8th grader at MS51. And right now I'm dealing with the admissions process for high school, and I was wondering, do you have a plan? It's really, really stressful. And I was wondering, do you have a plan to simplify it? And what is that plan, if you have one?
I would say, I know it's stressful. Thank you. I know it's stressful because very recently I went through it twice. It is definitely stressful. Not to make you feel better, it's a lot better than I think it was in the past. I think it's simpler. But I am interested in simplifying everything with admissions further. Do we have a right now plan? No. But my mandate to Department of Education, to the Deputy Chancellor who handles admissions, is to steadily look for ways to simplify and also to explain it better. I think we do a lousy job of explaining it. I said, put up videos from real people talking about how to navigate the process better and things like that. We haven't been doing those real basic things. So I believe over time we will simplify it and explain it better, but we don't have like a master plan yet.
Behind you in the red.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. My name is Mariana Nuziali, and my question is, what is your administration, the Mayor's Alliance, Feral Cat Initiative going to do about cat colonies that are being removed illegally from where they've been for years and then dumped in city parks and possibly killed? This just recently happened at Industry City. I've been a cat caretaker there for 5 years.
Let me just see, because there are times when I don't know the subject matters. One of the folks from CAU, or do you happen to know, Commissioner? Okay, is one of the folks from CAU has worked on animal rights issues around? Here comes Jeff.
Jeff?
Feral cats is a very challenging issue. I'd be happy to follow up with you about it afterwards because it's the lightning round.
And I apologize, we only are going to get 3 questions more. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then, as the mayor said, commissioners will stick around and talk to you if you have questions that you can come and talk to them afterwards. And I thank everyone for their patience, and I'm sorry that there are many more wonderful questions than we have time.
Thank you. Union Street and 8th Avenue. Terrible congestion problem, noise problem. More importantly is the safety issue. People making right turns from the left lane, people going into the oncoming traffic lane on Union Avenue, on Union Street, so they're coming on oncoming traffic.
Hold on. This is Polly, but it's also an enforcement issue. Come on, Chief. I know it's the late innings here, but come on.
I have a meeting with the NCOs of the sector.
Okay, but lightning round, what's your question?
My question is, what can we do about the safety? I want a box, whatever you're doing.
Blocking the box. It's fighting blocking the box.
I want that done. We have to.
Okay, I got you. I'm from the neighborhood. I know what you mean. so I want to key in on this question on I've seen it with my own eyes many times, the shifting lane thing. when people are in a congested situation, the sort of desperate shifting of lanes and things like that is a real important issue, and that's going to be the enforcement. Polly, start the answer.
All right, and I'm very familiar with this particular intersection, and I've actually talked to my staff at taking a look, at least in terms of pedestrians trying to cross Union Street, because cars come whipping around the corner. One thing I think we're looking at is putting in a leading pedestrian interval, so pedestrians will get a head start. They'll be out into the crosswalk before the cars can start turning. Because what's happening is, you know, traffic is building up. People want to go up Union and head off onto Eastern Parkway and into other parts of Brooklyn. So we're looking at that, which is a pedestrian measure. In terms of enforcement, I'll turn over to Chief Powers.
The commanding officer of the precinct is looking at all the measures around Grand Army Plaza, looking to do different things. Added to that is now the Prospect Park situation. So we're going to have to take a look at the whole thing, make a whole new plan, and work with Polly on what exactly we could do about it. I mean, enforcement's only a small part of it.
So here's what I want to say. We agree there's a problem. That's a good start with government. We agree there's a problem. It's on their radar. I want them to go find additional measures we can take. Polly has a good idea here. But I think your enforcement point, you're right. The world's changing now because of the action in the park, which is a very good thing. But will you make sure the commander follows up directly and sees what we can do on further enforcement? Thank you.
Just so you know, he hasn't run over.
Affordable housing lottery odds are 400 to 1. The 50% community set aside is designed to protect long-term residents from displacement. I lived in this neighborhood for 47 years and was displaced by a $500 rent increase 8 months ago. I was declared ineligible because I was forced to move. Aren't HPD guidelines the opposite of intended protection, not just for me, but long-term residents recently displaced citywide?
Wait, help me with the last part of that question. Just try and get to the core of what you're saying so I can understand it.
So she lived in the neighborhood for 47 years. She lost her apartment and had to move out of the neighborhood.
Rent stabilized or a private apartment?
It wasn't rent stabilized.
Was not?
Just the price got too high.
Okay.
Had to move out. And then for a lottery she had applied for while she was living here, got selected. But then she was no longer living here because she got displaced and she wasn't eligible for the community.
And we want to do an appeals process on that. Because if she applied at that time, I mean, I think this one's double jeopardy if ever I heard it. I'm not a lawyer, but that sounds really unfair to you.
It was in the pot for a year before I moved.
No, I'm totally, I love bureaucracy, I really do. That sounds like double jeopardy, that you lost your apartment, you applied from the community, then you were considered out of the community. I think you should have been considered in the community. There's an appeals process. I don't make all the rules, but I'd like you to follow up personally on what her appeal rights are and how she can not lose what that previous application would have given her if there's a way to reach it back.
Very good. I'll talk to you right after.
Great.
Deputy Commissioner, thank you.
Yes, no, this one was really just...
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I am a parent of a public school student who goes to an overachieving school. My question is, can there be a plan put in place to replicate the successful academic model practiced and created by Medgar Evers College Prep School and schools across the city to ensure that all students have access to the same level of quality education that my son and his classmates have?
Okay, I'm going to authorize a further question. One more question, I will answer it, but I admire the Medgar Evers team for spreading out very wisely. But and it's a great school and it's an important topic. But I also, we want to make sure at a meeting we cover a lot of different things. So I think we do that all the time. Is the honest answer. We're constantly looking for models that work. We are able to replicate a good model. We have a lot of experience at replicating a good model. So this one, I think it has been very successful, and I would say the most specific idea is if the principal and the school members of the school community want to replicate it directly, we would have that conversation any day, and we would evaluate that. Okay,
right,
one more.
It's not a Medgar Evers prep question, right? Your question, right? That right here. Yes, this is the last question.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
And Brand Lanston. Thank you for having this town meeting. You should have more town meeting. Don't wait till election time
I had them well before the election, I assure you. There's
This is number 42.
There's no way to do 42 just before an election. It takes a long time.
Reason for that, Mayor, I had, we the tenants had sent letters to you for 3 years, and we've been having problems in our building.
Where is it, ma'am?
That's on 15th Street.
I'm sorry, which building?
15th Street, 111, Park Slope.
15th Street.
Right, and we've been talking to your staff, and your staff got very ugly. That's last week, yes, 2 months ago, July, you had me to speak to Alexander. She hung up on the phone me last week.
Okay, let me do this because I want to
answer about the.
Ma'am, just in the interest of, because it's a very specific situation, I certainly don't ever want my staff to be disrespectful to anyone, so I apologize. That should never happen.
Years.
Okay, listen to what I'm saying. I apologize. That should not have happened. Now, if your building is still experiencing problem, then the Deputy Commissioner of HPD is right here, and whatever the specific needs are, he will meet with you right now to see what we can do to get going.
Okay, because your office stinks too.
Well,
and I will say this though,
if you want help,
and ma'am, I will just tell you this.
Okay, we're done. But
I do want to acknowledge we've got Deputy Commissioner Vito Mustachullo, who every council member in the city will tell you is the best preserver of affordable housing that we have. So I want to say a big thank you to the mayor. Let's join. This is Town Hall number 42. That's a lot of time answering a lot of questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, commissioners, all for being here. Thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Get home safe and have a good night. Thank you.